Take your time, relax.
How was the gigs in London?
They were good. No, it's good. We did 3 shows in this new dome, and no, it's fun.
Do they meet you here home with a certain kind of
home thing? Yeah.
Feeling or
there's a good
atmosphere?
fit. No, it's very. Yeah, it's very.
Welcome home, guys.
Yes, it's
something
very.
like
Yes,
that.
it is like that. You know, which brings with it a certain kind of responsibility.
Of course.
You know, to do a really good show, but then I mean, you know, it's not like anonymous.
Yeah.
But it's really nice. They're really warm.
You still live here in Britain most of the time?
I'm here a lot of the time. Yeah, I've been away for 2 years.
Okay.
I haven't been here for 2 years almost.
Jag mötte Jagger för 9 år sedan i Paris och nu, när vi träffas i London, tvingas jag konstatera att det utseendemässigt hänt betydligt mer med mig än med honom. Han blir 64 i år. Assistenten fixar till luggen för intervjun. Rätt gulligt, eller hur? Det råder heller ingen större tvekan om vilken signal han vill sända ut med omslagsbilden på nya samlingsplattan.
What's symbol? It's just a relaxed kind of guy.
An ordinary guy who likes what he's doing, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's pretty good. A good interpretation.
Have you felt a bit limited within the frame of Stones?
No, I don't think the Stones is really limited, because the Stones is also very an eclectic band. You know, the Stones is not like just a blues band or just a rock band. And I mean, the Stones will attempt a lot of styles of music. Absolutely.
But this is really the songwriter Jagger, sort of say, isn't it?
Well, the songwriter Jagger is also in the Rolling Stones. Of course.
Jaggers sololåtar spänner över det mesta verkligen.
Political. Are you involved yourself in any political projects? With your music or elsewhere?
Well, social comment, I mean, I'm involved in certain things. I don't call it political, they're more human. You know, I'm involved, you know, with a lot of other people in trying to keep the Darfur thing before the public, because it's such a long-running, terrible story that people and politicians get very bored because they have to move on, and there's always a new terrible thing. And so I've been involved lately in trying to help a little bit with that.
And this is something that has been growing during the years, or?
I mean, I've always been like that.
You have?
Yeah.
Even in the 20s?
I wasn't around the 20s.
When you were 20?
Oh, when I was 20, I was very involved, because I went to college in a very Marxist college. And when I was 19, I was very, very involved in left-wing causes. We used to go, there was still fascism in this country, still fascist rallies. We used to go to anti-fascist rallies and march in these demonstrations and things like that. So I was very involved in that when I was at college, when I was in my early 20s. It's never easy growing up. You know, growing up is always there's so many changes that you go through, so many choices to make, and as we were talking about before, you know, these choices send you down different avenues. So, you know, if you make a bad one, that can ruin your life, and at 16 or 17, that's a hard thing. But I mean, I think you're quite lucky living in a place like England, because it has obviously bad things, but it has a lot of good things going for it. And
did Tony Blair change it to the better?
A lot of opportunities. Did Tony Blair change it for the better? For young people, I wouldn't say that he changed young people's lifestyles significantly. I mean, over the gradual time, I mean, it was a very good economic time. You know, whereas the economy was always strong during this time. So the unemployment was relatively low, and it was very prosperous for most people. But there's a sort of underclass of people. One of the problems which Tony Blair didn't solve, which people could say that he made even worse in some ways, was that created an underclass of people who are badly educated, and another underclass of people who can't be employed, and another underclass of people who don't fit into society because they're they were not absorbed into the general mainstream of society of certain immigrant groups as well. So there is an underclass of society in England that doesn't fit into all these places, which is very resentful. And so those people are not living in the prosperous Britain that we like to think of, and they are not in the world of opportunity. And for them, life in England is not much of a laugh.
God gave me everything I want. Is that the way you feel about your own life?
Well, at certain moments you feel good about it. Sometimes you curse God and say, "Nah, why did you do this?" You know, become like Job. But then, no, I've been very lucky in my life, so so I've got nothing to complain about, really.
Can you be curious sometimes yourself, wondering how could life have been with a wife, 2 kids, a Volvo car, a small house, and a dog?
Does this exist? This is just a fantasy of the journalist.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean,
have you been curious?
I mean, now 50% of people in England are not live together and are not married, and they don't have a dog. Everyone would like to have a lot of different alternate ones to choose from, and then really there's really only one you do. And why do you choose this way, and why do you not choose that way? And it's all very fascinating. What would have happened to you if you'd have married this woman, or taken this job, or gone to live in this country? My father always wanted to move to Australia, and we dissuaded him to go to Australia. So what would it have been like, you know, if we'd have said to, yeah, what a great idea, let's go to Australia, and we would have all been brought up in a very small town in Australia where he wanted to go. So that would have been a different kind of life.
Sure. When I met you in Paris, 98, I asked you, what will the history books write about the Rolling Stones? And you said, well, their most famous song was Satisfaction.
No, they said, what are they going to say about you in the history book? And I say...
You remember this?
Yeah, and I said...
It's incredible.
And I said... Oh, wasn't he the bloke that sang Satisfaction? That's what I said to you. And then, but funny enough, I was just doing an interview for the BBC, and it was questions sent in, you know, by email. And one of the questions was from a teacher, and she's teaching in the course for 15, 16-year-olds, history of the Rolling Stones in the 60s as part of their course. So when you say, I mean, it's part of the exam course, so, you know, it's pretty kind of strange. I mean, I know that there's been many theses in universities, so it's kind of taught in school, so I'm happy. As long as it's accurate, of course.
Keith was very angry when he saw the reviews after your Gothenburg concert a couple of months ago. Have you heard about that? Because they said something like this, Jagger was fantastic, but the rest of the guys...
No, they didn't say that at all. They said that I was fantastic, the rest of the band was fantastic, but Keith wasn't very good. But
do you agree?
No, actually, in the Göteborg concert, that I'm not saying the Rolling Stones are every night the most brilliant band in the world, but I think they're very consistent. And I think in the Gothenburg show, there was a very good show.
You're one of the most respected artists in the world. You got a load of cash. What is the main reason for you being on tour for months?
Well, I think it's really rhetorical, because you know, that's what you do. You know, if you're a musician, you play, and if you're a singer, you sing. So if you don't get out on the tour, you're not doing your job. What are you going to do?
And you're a really bad plumber.
A terrible plumber, and even worse, decorator. On stage, it's great. You know, the first number when you go out on stage and you see the audience for the first time, and you take them in and you check them out and suss them. It's an interesting moment.
Describe the feeling.
It's very hard to describe.
60,000 people.
So you look at the audience and look at the whole place and see what kind of audience they are and what mood they're in, because it's like a kind of person. The audience becomes like a person, like one person. The many, many people you're right over there. You look very puzzled with the cameras. Everything going good?
Oh, yes.
He's just he puzzled himself.
And then you try to suss out what this amorphous multitude of people forming into one sort of personality. And then you just try and understand how they're feeling at this moment to interact with them in the best possible way.
And when Charlie Watts says Mick is the best entertainer in the world. Isn't he nice?
He's very sweet.
Are you always that sweet to each other?
No, Charlie and I have a lot of respect for each other, and we rarely say mean things.
För den som känner sig lite mer törstig